Most cages have bars. This one does not. You can leave any time. But most people never do. Think about that. Many people say they want change, a better life, a new skill, a new job, a new future. But when the moment comes to act, they hesitate. Not because the goal is impossible, not because the dream is too big, because comfort feels good, and comfort is difficult to leave. Imagine a warm room on a cold day. Inside, everything feels safe, comfortable, predictable. You know where everything is. You know what tomorrow will look like. Nothing surprises you. Nothing challenges you. Nothing scares you. Now imagine opening the door. Outside, the air is cold. The wind is strong. The road is unfamiliar. Suddenly, staying inside feels like the better choice. So you close the door, and you wait. Tomorrow feels safer. Next week feels safer. Next year feels safer. But something important is happening. While you stay comfortable, life keeps moving. The years keep moving. The clock keeps moving. And slowly, comfort becomes a trap. Not because comfort is bad, because too much comfort stops growth. Think about a bird. Imagine a bird living inside a cage. The cage is safe. Food arrives every day. Water arrives every day. There are no storms, no danger, no risk. One day, someone opens the cage door. The bird can leave. The sky is waiting. Freedom is waiting. The world is waiting. But the bird stays. Why? Because the cage is familiar. The cage feels safe. The bird knows the cage. The sky feels uncertain. Life often works exactly the same way. Many people live inside invisible cages. A job they no longer enjoy. A habit they should leave behind. A dream they never start. A life that no longer fits them. The door is open, but they stay. Not because they cannot leave. Because leaving feels uncomfortable. Think about that. Now imagine two people. Both want to learn English. The first person studies every day. They make mistakes. They sound awkward. They feel embarrassed sometimes. But they continue. The second person waits. They want to sound perfect. They want confidence first. They want certainty first. Years later, the difference is enormous. One person accepted discomfort. The other person stayed comfortable. Growth almost always asks for discomfort. That is the price. Now imagine learning to ride a bicycle. The first day feels uncomfortable. The second day feels uncomfortable. Falling feels uncomfortable. Making mistakes feels uncomfortable. Everything feels uncomfortable. But imagine avoiding all discomfort. Imagine never touching the bicycle. Would you ever learn? Of course not. The discomfort was part of the lesson. Many people forget this. They believe discomfort is a sign to stop. But often, discomfort is a sign that growth has begun. Think about exercise. Imagine lifting weights. The muscles become tired. The body becomes tired. The effort feels uncomfortable. Yet that discomfort helps create strength. Without the challenge, the muscles stay the same. Life often follows the same rule. Without challenge, we stay the same. Now imagine a young tree growing in a forest. The wind pushes against it. Storms shake its branches. Rain falls. Winter arrives. The tree faces difficulty. Yet those difficult seasons help strengthen its roots. Imagine protecting the tree from every challenge. No wind, no storms, no pressure. The tree might grow, but it would grow weak. The first strong storm could break it. Strength often comes from resistance, not comfort. Think about your own life. What are you avoiding right now? A difficult conversation? A new skill? A new opportunity? A dream? What if the discomfort is not the problem? What if the discomfort is the path? Many people spend years trying to avoid discomfort, and then wonder why nothing changes. Nothing changes because growth lives outside the comfortable zone. Not far outside, just one step outside. One conversation, one lesson, one action, one small act of courage. Now imagine standing at the edge of a road. Behind you is comfort. Ahead of you is growth. You cannot stand in both places forever. Sooner or later, you must choose. And that choice shapes your future. Because comfort feels good today. But growth creates a better tomorrow. And that leads us to an important question. If comfort keeps people stuck, why is it so difficult to leave behind? The answer is simple. Comfort makes a promise, a very attractive promise. It says, stay here. You'll be safe. You won't fail. You won't get hurt. And for a while, that promise sounds wonderful. Who doesn't want safety? Who doesn't want certainty? Who doesn't want to avoid pain? But comfort never tells the whole story. It tells you what you gain. It hides what you lose. Think about that. Imagine a man sitting in a harbor. His boat is tied to the dock. The water is calm. Everything feels safe. Nothing can go wrong. The boat is protected. The man is comfortable. Years pass. The boat remains exactly where it started. Then one day, an old sailor walks by. He looks at the boat. Then he says, "Boats are safe in the harbor." But that is not what boats are for. Think about those words. That is not what boats are for. And perhaps the same is true for people. Perhaps you were not meant to spend your entire life avoiding risk. Perhaps you were not meant to stay where everything feels easy. Perhaps you were built for something more. Now imagine a child learning to walk. The floor feels unsafe. The child falls. Again and again. The child could avoid every fall by staying on the ground. That would be safer. That would be more comfortable. But the child would never learn to walk. Sometimes the safe choice is the thing holding you back. Now imagine two friends. Both are offered a new opportunity. A chance to learn. A chance to grow. A chance to change their lives. The first friend says, "It sounds difficult." The second friend says, "It sounds difficult." The situation is exactly the same. The difference comes next. The first friend walks away. The second friend takes a step forward. Years later, their lives look completely different. Not because one person was luckier. Not because one person was smarter. Because one person was willing to be uncomfortable for a while. Think about learning a language. The first conversation feels uncomfortable. The first mistake feels uncomfortable. Not understanding feels uncomfortable. Being corrected feels uncomfortable. Everything feels uncomfortable. Yet every fluent speaker once lived inside that discomfort. Every one of them. Nobody skips that stage. Now imagine a butterfly inside a cocoon. The butterfly struggles, pushes, fights, moves slowly. The process looks difficult. Imagine helping the butterfly. Imagine cutting open the cocoon. It sounds kind, helpful, compassionate. But something unexpected happens. The butterfly becomes weak. It cannot fly. The struggle was necessary. The struggle strengthened its wings. Without the struggle, the butterfly loses the ability to fly. Life often works that way. Some discomfort is not your enemy. Some discomfort is your teacher. Now imagine a young tree growing on a windy hill. Every day the wind pushes against it. Every day the tree bends. The process looks difficult, but year after year the roots grow deeper. The trunk grows stronger. The wind is not stopping the tree. The wind is helping build the tree. Think about your own life. Perhaps there is a challenge you wish would disappear. A difficult situation. A hard lesson. A season that feels uncomfortable. What if that challenge is building something inside you? What if the discomfort has a purpose? Now imagine an old craftsman teaching his apprentice. The apprentice asks, "When does growth become comfortable?" The old craftsman smiles, then shakes his head. Growth never becomes comfortable. You become stronger. Think about that. Growth never becomes comfortable. You become stronger. That changes everything. Because many people spend years waiting for fear to disappear, waiting for confidence to arrive, waiting for discomfort to leave. Meanwhile, the people who grow understand something different. They act while feeling uncertain. They move while feeling afraid. They learn while making mistakes. They grow while feeling uncomfortable. And slowly, that discomfort becomes familiar. Not easy, but manageable. And that brings us to a hidden cost most people never notice. The cost of choosing comfort today and paying for it tomorrow. Imagine a man sitting in a rocking chair. Every day he sits in the same place. The chair moves, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The movement feels real. The movement feels productive. But at the end of the day, he is exactly where he started. Think about that. Many people live this way. Busy, but not moving forward. Comfort creates the feeling of progress without the reality of progress. And that is dangerous. Very dangerous. Now imagine two roads. The first road is smooth, easy, comfortable. The second road is rough, steep, difficult. Most people choose the first road, at least in the beginning. Why wouldn't they? The easy road feels better. The difficult road feels harder. But years later, something interesting happens. The easy road leads exactly where it started. The difficult road leads somewhere new. Think about that. The roads feel different today, but their destinations become different tomorrow. Now imagine a student. Every evening, the student has a choice. Watch another hour of videos, or spend an hour learning. The first choice feels comfortable. The second choice feels difficult. One day, the difference is tiny. 1 week, the difference is tiny. 1 month, the difference is tiny. But 10 years? 10 years changes everything. Because small choices become large outcomes. Now imagine a river. The river always chooses movement. Even when rocks appear. Even when the path becomes difficult. Even when obstacles stand in the way. The river keeps moving. That is why it eventually reaches the sea. Imagine if the river decided to stop whenever the journey became uncomfortable. It would never arrive anywhere. Many people do exactly that. The moment life becomes difficult, they stop. The moment growth feels uncomfortable, they retreat. The moment fear appears, they turn around. Then they wonder why their lives never change. Now imagine an old photograph. A man looks at a picture of himself from 20 years ago. He smiles. Then he becomes quiet because he remembers something. 20 years ago, he had a dream he never started. Not because he couldn't, not because it was impossible, because he kept waiting, waiting for confidence, waiting for certainty, waiting for a better time. The years passed anyway. Think about that. Time always passes. Always. Whether you act or not. Whether you move or not. Whether you grow or not. The clock never waits. Now imagine another man. 20 years ago, he was afraid too. He was uncertain too. He made mistakes too. But he started. One small step. Then another. Then another. 20 years later, he is not proud because everything went perfectly. He is proud because he lived. He tried. He learned. He grew. There's a big difference between a difficult life and an empty life. Many people spend so much energy avoiding difficulty that they accidentally create emptiness. Now imagine standing at the end of your life. Looking back, what do you think hurts more? The mistakes you made while trying? Or the chances you never took? The conversations you never had? The dreams you never started? The roads you never walked? Think about that. Most regrets are not born from courage. They are born from hesitation, from staying too long inside the comfortable cage. Now imagine an eagle. When the eagle is young, the nest feels safe, warm, comfortable, protected. But there comes a day when the nest becomes a problem. Not because the nest changed, because the eagle must change. The sky is waiting. The eagle was never meant to live in the nest forever. And perhaps the same is true for us. Perhaps some things that once protected us are now limiting us. Old habits, old fears, old routines, old excuses. At first they felt safe. Now they keep us small. Think about your own life. Where have you become too comfortable? What dream have you postponed? What challenge have you avoided? What opportunity keeps knocking on the door? Because opportunities rarely stay forever. The door does not remain open forever. The moment does not remain forever. Life keeps moving. And that leads us to another important truth. The people who build remarkable lives are not fearless. They simply learn how to take small steps into discomfort, again and again. And that changes everything. Because most people think courage is something big, something rare, something dramatic. They imagine a hero, a great speech, a life-changing moment. But real courage is usually much smaller and much quieter. Think about a person learning English. Courage is speaking when you might make mistakes. Courage is raising your hand. Courage is saying one sentence, then another, then another. That is all. Small courage, repeated many times. Now imagine a man standing at the edge of a cold lake. The water looks uncomfortable. The air feels cold. Every part of him wants to stay on the shore. So he stands there, thinking, waiting, planning. Meanwhile, another person takes one step into the water. Not because they feel ready, because they decide to begin. Soon, something interesting happens. The person in the water adapts. The person on the shore keeps wondering. Action creates experience. Experience creates confidence. Confidence rarely comes first. Think about that. Many people have the order backwards. They say, when I feel confident, I'll start. But confidence often arrives after the first step, not before it. Now imagine a young woman who wants to change her life. She does not need a huge plan. She does not need perfect timing. She does not need a miracle. She needs one small act of courage, one phone call, one application, one lesson, one conversation, one decision. Small doors often open large futures, but only if someone opens them. Now imagine a man pushing a heavy cart. The cart refuses to move. At first, he pushes harder. Slowly, the wheels begin turning. The first movement is the hardest. After that, momentum helps. Life often works exactly the same way. Starting is difficult. Continuing becomes easier. Not easy, just easier. That is why comfort is so dangerous. Comfort stops the first push. Comfort stops the first step. Comfort stops the beginning, and without a beginning, nothing else can happen. Now imagine a forest after a storm. Broken branches lie on the ground. The wind has passed through. The forest looks damaged. But look closer. Small new plants begin to appear. Sunlight reaches places it could not reach before. New growth begins. Sometimes change feels uncomfortable because something new is trying to grow. Think about your own life. Maybe there is a decision you have been avoiding, a challenge you keep postponing, a road you know you should walk. Deep down, you already know. You already know what needs to happen. The difficult part is not understanding. The difficult part is acting. Now imagine an old teacher speaking to a student. The student says, "I'm afraid." The teacher smiles, then asks, "Afraid of what?" The student thinks for a moment, then answers, "Failing." The teacher nods. "That is normal?" The student looks down. The teacher continues, "But tell me something. What happens if you never try?" The student becomes quiet, because suddenly the question feels heavier. Failure has a cost, but never trying has a cost too. And often that cost is much larger. Now imagine two versions of yourself. One stays comfortable. One takes small risks. One avoids mistakes. One learns from mistakes. One stays where life feels safe. One grows. 10 years later, they look very different. Not because one person was special, because one person kept choosing growth over comfort. Again, and again, and again. Think about a seed. The seed must break open before it can grow. From the outside, that sounds destructive, but it is not. The seed is not being destroyed. The seed is becoming something more. Many people are standing at that exact moment. A moment where growth feels uncomfortable. A moment where change feels uncertain. A moment where staying the same feels easier. But the future belongs to the people who move anyway. The people who take the next step anyway. The people who leave the cage, leave the harbor, leave the warm room, and discover what is waiting beyond it. Because there is something most people never realize. Comfort feels good in the moment, but growth feels good for a lifetime. And once you understand that, you begin to see life differently. You stop asking, how can I stay comfortable? And start asking, who can I become if I keep moving forward? And that question has the power to change everything. Because the answer shapes your future. Not tomorrow, not next year, today. Every choice answers that question. Every habit answers that question. Every action answers that question. Now imagine an old bridge crossing a river. For years, people walk across it. Back and forth, back and forth. Most never stop to think about how it was built. They simply use it. The bridge feels permanent, strong, reliable. But imagine watching it from the beginning. One stone, then another, then another. For a long time, it would not look impressive. For a long time, it would look unfinished. Many people would walk past and say, "It will take forever." And yet one day, the bridge is complete. The lesson is simple. Big things are usually built from small things, repeated consistently. The same is true for confidence. The same is true for success. The same is true for growth. Now imagine a young boy learning to swim. The first day is difficult. The water feels strange. His movements feel awkward. He wants to climb back out. The side of the pool feels safe. The water feels uncomfortable. But he stays. One day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 1 year. Eventually, the water feels natural. The thing that once frightened him becomes familiar. Think about that. Many things in life are scary only because they are new, not because they are impossible. Now imagine a woman moving to a new city. At first, everything feels unfamiliar. The streets, the people, the routines. Nothing feels comfortable. She misses what she knows. She misses what is familiar. But slowly, something changes. The unfamiliar becomes familiar. The uncomfortable becomes comfortable. A new life begins to form. This happens more often than we realize. Human beings adapt. We adapt to challenge. We adapt to difficulty. We adapt to change. The problem is that many people never stay long enough to discover this. They leave too early. They return to comfort too quickly. And in doing so, they miss the growth waiting on the other side. Now imagine a man standing before a closed door. Behind the door is opportunity, a better future, a new skill, a new chapter of life. The door is unlocked. It is not locked at all. The only thing required is the courage to turn the handle. Yet many people stand there for years, thinking, wondering, waiting. The door was never the problem. Fear was. Comfort was. The belief that staying still was safer. Think about your own life. How many doors have you already found? How many opportunities have appeared? How many chances have been waiting? Sometimes life is not asking you to find a new door. Sometimes life is simply asking you to walk through the one already in front of you. Now imagine an eagle again. The young eagle stands at the edge of the nest. Far below, the world stretches in every direction. The distance looks frightening. The sky feels uncertain. Everything inside the eagle says, "Stay here. Stay safe. Stay where you are." But the nest cannot teach the eagle to fly. Only the sky can do that. There is wisdom in that. Some lessons can only be learned through action. Some strengths can only be built through challenge. Some parts of who you are can only be discovered outside your comfort zone. Now imagine yourself 10 years from today. You look back at this moment, this exact moment, the choices in front of you, the opportunities in front of you, the fears in front of you. What advice would your future self give? Would they tell you to stay comfortable? Would they tell you to keep waiting? Would they tell you to avoid every risk? Probably not. Perhaps they would say something much simpler. Take the step. Start now. You are stronger than you think. Think about that. Because many people spend years searching for courage. But courage is not something you find. It is something you build. One action at a time. One uncomfortable moment at a time. One brave decision at a time. And slowly, without realizing it, you become the person you once wished you could be. But there is one final lesson about comfort. Perhaps the most important lesson of all. A lesson about regret. A lesson many people learn too late. The lesson of regret. Imagine an old man sitting by a window. The day is quiet. The room is quiet. The years have passed. Most of his life is behind him now. As he looks outside, he begins thinking about the choices he made, the roads he walked, the chances he took, the mistakes he made. At first, he remembers the failures, the embarrassing moments, the times things went wrong. But something surprising happens. Those memories do not hurt very much. Not anymore. They became stories, lessons, parts of a life that was fully lived. Then his mind turns to something else. The chances he never took, the dreams he never started, the words he never said, the opportunities he let pass. And those memories feel different. Heavier, much heavier. Think about that. Failure often fades with time. Regret often grows. Now imagine two people. The first person tries and fails. The second person never tries at all. Both experience pain. But the pain is different. Failure says, "At least I know." Regret says, "I will never know." And for many people, that question lasts a lifetime. What if I had started? What if I had tried? What if I had been brave for just one moment? Now imagine a train station. A train arrives. The doors open. People step inside. The train waits. Then it leaves. Years later, another train arrives. Then another. Then another. Life often feels like that. Opportunities come. Opportunities go. Some return. Some never do. The problem is not that every train must be taken. The problem is believing there will always be another one. Because sometimes there isn't. Think about that. Many people live as though time is unlimited, as though there will always be another chance, another year, another season, another opportunity. But life makes no such promise. The clock keeps moving, whether we are ready or not. Now imagine a garden. Two neighbors live side by side. The first neighbor plants seeds every year. Some grow, some fail, some surprise him. The second neighbor spends years planning the perfect garden, the perfect design, the perfect season, the perfect conditions. Years pass. One yard is full of life. The other is full of plans. The difference was never knowledge. The difference was action. The difference was the willingness to leave comfort behind. Now think about your own life. Years from now, what do you want to remember? Do you want to remember the risks you avoided? Or the adventures you experienced? Do you want to remember the fears that controlled you? Or the courage that helped you grow? Do you want to remember staying in the cage? Or learning how to fly? Because one day, every person asks these questions. Some ask them with pride. Others ask them with regret. The choice begins long before that day arrives. The choice begins now. Now imagine the bird from the beginning of our story. The cage door is still open. The sky is still waiting. The bird stands at the edge, afraid, uncertain, uncomfortable, just like before. But this time, something is different. The bird understands something. The cage is safe. But the cage is small. The sky is uncertain. But the sky is where life happens. So the bird takes one step, then another. Then it jumps. For a moment, there is fear. For a moment, there is uncertainty. For a moment, there is discomfort. Then something remarkable happens. The bird flies. Not because the fear disappeared. Not because the sky became safe. Because it moved anyway. And perhaps that is the lesson. The people who build meaningful lives are not fearless. They are not special. They are not lucky all the time. They simply learn to move forward while feeling uncomfortable. They leave the warm room. They leave the harbor. They leave the cage. Again and again. And because they do, their world becomes larger. Their lives become richer. Their future becomes brighter. Comfort feels good today. Growth feels good for a lifetime. So when the choice appears, choose growth. When the road becomes difficult, keep walking. When fear appears, keep moving. When comfort asks you to stay, remember the sky. Remember the open door. Remember the life waiting on the other side. Because the greatest things in life are rarely found inside the comfortable cage. They are found just beyond it, one step away, one decision away, one moment of courage away. And that moment may be closer than you think. See you in the next story.